Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for July 16th, 2024. Well, yesterday we had another rip-roar day in the market with a fade. If you remember yesterday's video, I said watch for the possibility of that whipsaw. We didn't completely whipsaw, but we did have quite a fade and then rallied back up at the end of the day, leaving maybe some uncertainty in some of the candle patterns for yesterday and maybe just an overextension. So how about we take a look at what happened overnight? First off, Asian markets. Asian markets were a little bit mixed. Hong Kong had a rough night. That's that tech-heavy sector over there being down 1.60%. Shanghai was just slightly higher by $2.29, and the Nikkei came back a little bit, up 84 points on the day. Australian markets were lower and South Korea just slightly higher. European markets are maintaining that bearish stance here. They were bearish yesterday, decidedly bearish, and they started down this morning and are continuing to look lower here today, even as we heard from Jerome Powell, and the possibility of rate cuts is growing. And European markets are still seeing some significant bearishness as a result. If we take a look at U.S. futures this morning, U.S. futures, have kind of lost a little ground overnight. They were a little bit more positive overnight than they are right now. Just slightly bullish across the board here on futures this morning. We'll want to keep an eye on that. They're trying to pick up here just a little bit after Bank of America beat on estimates this morning. Let's take a look at some of the other things going on here. If we take a look at oil this morning, oil is just a little bit lower here today, down 79 cents a barrel at 81.12, and Brent being down 73 cents, 84.12 a barrel. That certainly didn't hurt oil producers here yesterday, with some nice surging to the upside here in some of those oil stocks, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. If we take a look at our precious metals this morning, boy, we've got gold surging this morning. Gold started down yesterday, reversed, ended the day in the positive. Gold at the moment is up $16.90 an ounce. When we take a look at GLD, you can see us stretching up here, and that possibility, if we were to close where we are here this morning, possible new record high close in gold, and that possibility that could pop on through here today. Now, why is that happening here this morning? Well, one of the reasons is because bonds are falling with that anticipation of bond yields anyway are falling. Bonds are going up with that anticipation of potential rate cuts from kind of the dovish comments that Powell had for us yesterday. Now, looking here in the chart, you can see a breakout up here could be interesting. We also have silver looking a little bit higher today. It's been locked in a consolidation here this morning. Interestingly enough, we've got copper, platinum, and palladium just slightly lower here today. If we take a look at palladium in here, pretty rough pullback here after breaking through that downtrend. This has been incredibly volatile. Be very careful here on that. Let's take a look at what we've got going on in those cryptos here this morning. Cryptos, well, a little bit on the bearish side in Bitcoin, but not so much. They had a huge up day yesterday. Right now, only down $22 a coin, and kind of some mix in the cryptos here this morning. We'll want to be keeping a close eye on the dollar here today. because of those bond yields falling this morning. We might see that dollar strengthen as the day goes on. So watch carefully for that. Looking at those bonds this morning, the 2-year has slipped just a bit back to 4.42%. The 10-year bonds are at 4.18%. And 30-year bonds at 4.41%. So just a little bit of decline in those, easing some of those pressures on those bonds, bond yields anyway. So what does all that mean for the day? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Tuesday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. How about we take a look at these charts and see if we can figure out how we might want to approach the market for the day. Remember, we want to shake off that bias. Let's look at the charts for what they are, not for what we want them to be, and see if we can figure out how that might translate into how we approach the trading today. First off, when we look at the diamonds, record highs here in the diamonds set yesterday. Nice push through, breakthrough resistance here in the chart. Now we've zoomed up quite a few points here in a very short period of time, leaving some gaps behind. So we do have to worry about that possibility if the bears come up with any reason for a pullback. We might come back and test some support here in the chart. So if the bears were to catch any whiff of selling, we could probably see a little bit of profit taking, and maybe a pullback could occur, and maybe a pullback into this range somewhere between here and here would be a likely place, and then maybe just a little bit of rest in here. Now, if we were to get any more bearish activity pushing down in here, coming down into this trend, might raise a little bit of concern in the market, a little bit of fear. What we're looking at on the bullish side is if the bulls find inspiration today, then that opportunity that we could just push right on through, and we could see new record highs in the market, blue sky above in the diamonds, and every reason to believe that's possible. If we take just a quick look, we haven't been doing this a lot, but a look at our moving averages, we just in the last 4 days of trading really separated from our 50-day moving average. So remember, if we do get a bit of a pullback, that would not be out of the normal. If we take a look at our SPY continues in this very strong bullish upside trend, just consolidating in here. Left behind yesterday, kind of a spinning top in here, giving that little indecision on the day. So watch that carefully. We're trying to pump up here this morning. Watch that carefully. If the bulls were to find inspiration here, well, it wouldn't be a whole big rough effort to see new record highs. We set new record highs at the close yesterday, so every reason to believe that we can continue to make these records day after day here in the market. If the bears, however, find some kind of inspiration and start to pull back, we've got a little bit of price support right in here and our trend. So look for that possibility if the bears were to engage. Breaking down below there could break that trend and move us down here into more of a bigger range of support in the chart on the SPY. If we take a look at our QQQ, well, QQQ left another spinning top in here, little doji candle, uncertain pattern in the chart, just taking a little bit of rest. We were unable to break high enough to break out here. So if the bulls find bullish inspiration here today, then we would look up here for a test of that resistance and then breaking through. Of course, that would be blue skies and new record highs in the Qs. I think that certainly a very possible thing to be considering here in the market. This is a very, very bullish upside trend here in the Qs. One thing I will say is we're so far separated from our 50-day moving average. At some point in time when a rest occurs, we're so centric into tech right now, meaning that so much money is in tech that if we were to get some selling coming in, and perhaps this might be a little bit of a warning shot across the bow here to be watchful of. If that were to occur, I would expect a pretty good run for the door, as profit taking would come in there pretty quickly, and we would probably see that continued rotation into smaller caps. So watching this carefully here, if the bears were to find inspiration, a test of this support right down in here looks like a likely place to be coming into. And if we break that little support and trend, we've got a little bit better support right here in the chart, and possibly even down here into this range with that little bit of rest. Now, one thing that would be a bit of a concern if that were to be the case, the possibility that that right there could be a little bit of a lower high. So keep an eye on the QQQ if we do continue to soften up here. And then in the Russell, my goodness, it's pile into the Russell full steam ahead. I want to caution everyone on this to be a little bit careful. I know the fear of missing out is really gripping folks. If you're not already in, chasing into this at this time could be a real dangerous situation, because we're popping up here into a zone that could be a real interesting zone of consolidation. You can see right up through here, all of this area in this could provide us a little bit of concern in that area. If I turn that a little bit of a red, you can see all of that resistance from 2021 and 2022 in there in that zone. So as we push up here and we continue to extend, leaving gaps behind this morning, if we push up here, we're going to leave another gap behind, a gap, a gap, a gap, a huge gap in IWM. So we couldn't rule out the possibility of a pullback in here, and then it could be a little bit painful in that pullback if you're chasing in at the moment. But if we can continue to push up, I would look for those resistance levels in this zone of the chart. And if the bears were to find some kind of inspiration, then start looking for these progressive levels to maybe push back in here, see if we can find some areas of price support in them, and possibly even filling some of these gaps in a pullback that could be kind of strong, depending on how the market reacts to data and some of these earnings. Let's take a look at our VIX here this morning. Our VIX yesterday, as we were ripping to the upside and rallying, notice our VIX actually picked up here a little bit, turned just a little bit higher, maybe a little concern of overextension in the market, at least for the short term, and a resting pullback would not be out of the question. We're pressing up against that downtrend here in the chart, which really doesn't mean anything of major concern. If we were to push through that, however, that might raise some concern, and if we were to break that downtrend and hold some kind of a higher low in here following this little upside trend, that's where some selling might become a little bit more uncertain here, and we could see those bears engage. But there's nothing in here that says that that is likely just yet. We still have that possibility that on the bullish information we could catch this resistance in here and push right back down into these kind of, well, not kind of, very complacent levels here in the VIX. If we take a look at our T2122, now our T2122 is the 4-week new high, new low ratio, and you can see as of yesterday we closed up here at 95.61%. We're still very, very elevated. You can see we're kind of hooking over here, and we're partying big time. And we can see when we've had these hockey stick type patterns up here, it tends to lead us to a little bit of selling. Now, it doesn't mean that we have to collapse. It could mean just a little bit of rest in the market to ease some of that upside pressure. But if those bulls can find inspiration today, well, push on up. We still have a couple points we can make here in T2122. If the bears find inspiration, we want to look at just how far we could pull this back if those bears were to really engage. There's nothing that suggests they're going to engage that way, but a little bit of pullback, a little bit of consolidation, not be out of the question at all. Our T2108, boy, what a zooming move in T2108. We went from the low 30s up here to 62 in T2108 in 4 trading days. And you can see once again kind of that hockey stick up in the air, that maybe we've extended a little bit too far here in the chart. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean we fall. We may just pull back and rest, consolidate a little bit, come back into some price support here in T2108. The bulls are definitely in control here, but we are pretty extended in that short term. T2107 is showing us the same thing, the percentage of stocks above the 200-day. We went from a below 50% up here to 60% in a big zooming move all at once. We're coming into some price resistance up in here, so watch that carefully for that possibility of pullback. Remember, once we get up into this area, we're getting into a little bit of a frothy zone in T2107, and we would look for a pullback, and that hockey stick up here in the air might suggest that that could be on the way at any time. But a pullback in here would be just coming into support at first. No picture in here that all of a sudden we're just going to fall out of bed and go to the downside. Our T2101 also, that zooming move to the upside. We went from a sub 9 reading in T2101 to just this zooming move to the upside. So here again, no hook on this at all, no hockey stick up in the air. So we could still see that enthusiasm. We're kind of partying right now, that push to the upside. So watch that carefully. And if those bears were to find inspiration, a little fade in here, coming back to find some support levels would not be out of the question. So just be careful of chasing in late stages here in the market. We may run into just that little bit of fade here overall. If we take a look at our take a look at our economic calendar here for today. Our economic calendar, we've got a couple things to be paying attention to before the bell here this morning. We're going to get retail sales figures. Keep an eye on that. That could be the most moving thing here in the market today. You can see that retail sales on the consensus side is suggesting a decline from a 0.1 to a negative 0.3. Remember, if we are a consumer-based market, and if the consumers are not happy, then our market tends not to be happy, despite the fact that we might be hoping for or expecting rate cuts. One of the reasons we cut rates is because the economy is slowing. And if the economy is slowing, we usually see jobless increases and things like that begin to occur. So watch this here. This number could be really, really important today. A beat on this number, coming in better than expected, would probably get the bulls to celebrate. A miss on this number, if it's worse than what they're suggesting it will be here, showing these declines, then the bears might have some reason to fade this market back just a little bit. So watch that close. Now, import-export prices will be coming in, and they're also they're showing here in import-exports they're looking for a little bit of an improvement in the import-exports. Still nothing to write home about, but they're looking for a slight improvement there. Our business inventories, they're expecting those to increase just slightly. So if business inventories are increasing, they're finding it more difficult to sell product, and we'll want to be paying attention to that. And then we've got the housing market number in here, and they're kind of punting on this number, saying it's going to stay flat here at 43. Beyond that, we've got some announcements and bond announcements, and then some Fed speak in here on the day. Rolling into Thursday, remember, we're going to get those housing starts and permits, industrial production, several Fed speakers in here, petroleum status, and a few other things. So it eases up with, on the things that really move the market, but we'll want to watch that close. Now, remember, we also have a distraction here for the next 2 days. There's going to be a huge distraction. Retailers, because of Amazon Prime, are going to be doing all kinds of discounting and selling. And what I've been hearing is that the discounting and selling this time is going to be substantial, because companies are needing to empty some inventories, and consumers are struggling with that purchasing power. So they're looking for any way to bring in some revenue into these companies. So watch that carefully here. When we get those kind of major distractions, it can also mean that we get kind of lethargic price action in the market, because everyone's shopping on their phones. So watch that for that possibility as well. If we take a look at our earnings calendar here for today, well, we have more earnings today. That provides us some inspiration here in the market. Could be inspiring for the bulls or the bears. Let's run through those really quick. And remember, guys, you can click the link below the title of the video. That'll take you back to the morning blog. And in the morning blog, you can catch that full list of notables here for today. So right now I'll be able to keep up with that, but as we continue to grow in the number of earnings, it'll be pretty quick. I won't be able to cover them all. So make sure you know how to get there and utilize that information as you see fit. BAC, we heard about their mentioned that they beat on earnings. They're trying to push higher here this morning. We've got a Morgan Stanley report yet to come today. Keep an eye on that. PNC Financial will be reporting. Looks like we're getting a little bit of a bearish move here on PNC this morning. PGR reporting today. We're going to hear from State Street today. A little pop and drop going on in that one so far this morning. And United Healthcare looking a little bit lower here today as these morning reports come out. This afternoon, these are notable, but not like super notable this afternoon. FULT, we're going to hear Regional Bank, HWC, another regional bank, IBKR, JB Hunt. That one could really be interesting on the shipping side of things. OMC, and then PNFP will be reporting this afternoon. So keep an eye on some of those. A lot of those have been zooming up in anticipation of earnings. That can be, that's quite a gamble. Considering the problems that we're seeing in some of those regional banks right now, but quite a gamble to be zooming these up into that earnings reports. These are ones that could have some pretty nasty reactions if they happen to miss or disappoint. So watch that close. Let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you can please click that subscribe button on YouTube. Also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor, leave that brief comment. That helps the channel to continue to grow. Click that thumbs up button. I apologize yesterday. I didn't get a chance to answer those comments. I had my son-in-law and daughter here, and I was helping them pack up during that period of time and load out that period of time when I normally have that time to answer those. So I apologize I didn't get to them, but I will be back on that task today. Let's take a look at some of these stocks setting up. Remember, everyone, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. Be a little bit careful here. Do your due diligence in the fact that we've extended very hard here in the last few days, and a little resting pullback might be possible. So be careful in chasing or over chasing into stocks that are particularly already extended. Now let's take a look at a few things. If we take a look at energy, if we're going to see bond yields decline, we could easily see energy moving to the upside. When we reduce the cost of money, we can often see those energy stocks move on up. So keep an eye on stocks in XLE. Take a look at FANG. FANG is looking really nice here with a nice little bullish pattern pushing to the upside and breaking out here. So watch carefully for that possibility. FANG could move on higher. I've been seeing some of the refiners in there like Halliburton getting a big zooming break here to the upside, breaking the downtrend. Now any rest or pullback, I wouldn't chase it here, but any rest, consolidation, or pullback that holds a support, then look for that next opportunity. That higher low in there could set up that next opportunity to the upside. And although I put this line here, just kind of know it could pull back into here and still be fine as well. So watch carefully here in Halliburton. Take a look at some of the others in here. SHEL, Shell, looking pretty good. I was set this alert in here. We're bouncing and banging our head against the resistance. Just hasn't had enough energy to push on through there. So keep an eye on those. And there are quite a few of those stocks really starting to show some improvement. Things like Valero, modest increases here overall, but when we look at stocks like ExxonMobil, we have that possibility of maybe a W-type formation coming into play. If we were to break through this resistance up here and hold, that could set up a really good buy. If we were to hold this higher low right in here, it could set up that opportunity that we could push on through. And we can see that over the entire sector here in XLE as well. We have that kind of W formation in here. We're pushing this resistance right now. So any rest consolidation in here sets up that opportunity that we could push on through to the upside. Now we do have to remember, anytime energy goes up in price, that has an impact on inflation. So we'll want to be watching that pretty carefully as well. If we take a look at stocks like IBM making that nice move, you can see where I've been talking about this, and that alert in here pushed right up, boom, popped right up into this resistance area of the chart. Now the question here for IBM is, can it push on through and then hold up here, or will we find this resistance, rest back in here, and then look for the next opportunity there in IBM? But beautiful looking chart, very easy to read that, and a nice bullish pattern overall. Take a look at CRM. CRM has been struggling in here just a little bit. This is where I had that alert on that pop, and I said watch for this to move up and fill the gap. Moved up, boom, got the gap. Now we've pulled back and we've faded here a little bit beyond our trend, but I don't see this as bad yet because we're consolidating in a pretty tight range right here. Watch that carefully. This has that potential. It could go either direction, but if those bulls stay inspired here, look for that to pop on up here in the chart and maybe retest this area in here and possibly this time break on through. So watch carefully there on CRM. NetApp has been continuing to hold up, although we have faded back after this breakout up here. This resting pullback coming into place. Notice that the candles are getting smaller. Little doji candle in here yesterday. Watch that carefully if we can hold this area for that next opportunity if those bulls can come in to the market. Now we're going to need that bullish inspiration to get that moving, but watch carefully for that possibility. How about Walmart? Walmart continuing to show lots and lots of bullishness. Very bullish pattern in here. Not much different from this pattern here. Notice that consolidation over to trend, and then we pop, consolidation over to trend, and we pop, consolidation over to trend, pop, and why can't we do it here? This is a chart pattern I call a stepper, because you can really see it's the old builder in me, but you can see that we're just building progressive steps higher, and we're coming into those buy points right off of that trend and right off of price support, the previous price support in the chart. So watch carefully as that continues, that opportunity to move on up here in Walmart. Let's take a look at some of our metals and bonds here. GLD obviously looking very, very strong here, but I wouldn't want to chase it at this point. Couple things that I think are possible in here. If this were to break out up here, I would look for a little bit of rest or consolidation to come into play. If it can hold that support up here on that breakout, look for it to rest for a period of time, coming back out here to trend, and then look for that opportunity. If it fails kind of at this triple top up here, it ends up pulling back, still look for that opportunity of that resting pullback in here, possibly to hold this price support and trend, and then look for that next opportunity to the upside in gold. You might want to be keeping an eye on silver. It's had a really nice tight consolidation in here, and it's tightening up a little bit more the last 3 days. So watch that carefully. If we continue to see that weakening in bond yields, look for that opportunity that this could push on up here in the chart. When bond yields weaken, we typically see the dollar weaken in price. So if that occurs, that usually pushes those commodity prices higher here in the market. So keep an eye on those. You can take a look at some of the agribusiness area here in the market as well. Take a look at MU ETF, breaking this downtrend, pushing up. So we're even seeing some of those commodity impacted stocks making some pretty big changes here in the chart. If it can break through this resistance and hold, could be very interesting. Things like a DBA, kind of interesting in here as well. Pushed up pretty strongly here, and this is normally the grain commodities, and if grain commodities continue to rally on a weakening dollar, which is fairly normal, keep an eye on some of those, and you can even break those out into the individual areas of the market. Now, I had a few more things I wanted to cover, so I'm just going to do this really quick because I'm out of time here. I'm making this video too long, but keep an eye on some of those bonds. Bank of America sent out to their clientele to start looking at the long bonds for an opportunity hedge for any kind of a market pullback. TLT is showing some bullishness here in the market. So watch that carefully. TLT, BND, JNK, look at some of those bond funds out there starting to show some opportunity. As the bond yields go down, bond prices go up. So watch that carefully, and I think there's that possibility we could start seeing, as this starts to improve, big banks could really start picking up on some of these for that opportunity here. So watch carefully for things like TLT. With that, everyone, video's too long, but I want to wish you all a great day. Thanks so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. Hope you're getting something out of these videos. If there's anything that I can help with, questions that you might have, feel free to ask in the comments as well. Wish you all the best, and I'll see you right back here bright and early. Good morning. Have a great day, everyone.